Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Glue Guys podcast, episode 20. Some might call it the Jorginho episode, because I think that's the best player that's won the 20 shirt in recent memory. Actually, I'm not going to speculate on other teams' jersey kit numbers because I don't really know them like that. But Chad, why don't you tell people how you're doing today while I get my bearings back?
I'm good. I will say number 20 for Real Madrid. That was Vinny's number before he eventually took the 7 shirt off Hazard. So, he did all right in that number. So I think he's a good competition for Jorginho. I will say the only maybe mark against him is this dude wore like 3 numbers in his first 4 seasons at the club. So.
We all know what Real Madrid's best numbered player in the past 5-ish years has been. It was on a preseason tour.
Oh, 50. Hazard 50. Yeah, I knew he was going to be a flop when we saw that. So I'm like, because I'm just went through in my head a Rolodex of players. I'm like, how many guys would actually let that happen? And I'm like, probably less than 5. So,
yeah, it should have been a red flag when he showed up on the first day. And they were like, hey, man, can you just wear 50 on this preseason tour? And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. That should have been a red flag.
Yeah, and also looking back on it, like maybe 50 was such a horrible number that it made him look a little bit bigger. But you could just tell he was large in preseason. So all those, those stories back in the day of how Hazard, he was so good he didn't even have to try. He definitely didn't try when he was at Madrid, so...
Very quickly, before we hop into our topic of the episode, I wanted to get your opinion on this Globe Soccer Awards thing that borderline looks like a Forex meeting for world football. Like, it was like, hey, who is this thing run by? It's like, Cristiano Ronaldo and his company, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
Like he somehow owns it. It's like, oh, who won all the awards? Oh, Real Madrid players.
Yeah,
and then he
Ronaldo.
said Vinny should have won the Ballon d'Or. And then he himself was awarded top goal scorer of all time, Cristiano. So, what's the deal? Like, with Cristiano's kind of last stint of his career, like becoming the most, I guess the word would be uncomfortable, like insecure. Great at GOAT level athlete of all time.
Well, look, it's actually very funny because I think 2 guys are kind of going through this at the exact same time right now, and that's Ronaldo and Bron, which is why you started laughing before I could even say it because you already knew. Both are guys who really, really care about their perception in the public eye. Whether that's Ronaldo I feel like all the time I'm reading, he's, the biggest platform of any pro athlete, this much social media followers total, this much in endorsements. And that's all great. Like, that's, you should be proud of that stuff because you obviously have to reach a certain level on the field to be able to do that, which he certainly has. And then with Bron, it's like, in both instances, also the parallel is they're chasing someone that I think for a lot of people
has almost achieved mythical status.
Exactly. Like look, for both Bron and Ronaldo, I truly don't think there's anything either one could do now in their career to become the GOAT. I mean, it would be so hard to see either one of them winning, Bron another ring, Ronaldo.
I say it's equally impossible scenario. Like if Ronaldo went in 2026 and won the World Cup, or if LeBron, like you said, won a title in the next 2 years, but those are equally unlikely.
Yeah, but my thing is, even when I think of both of those scenarios happening, I feel like the only way they would happen is with those guys in more supporting type of roles. Like couldn't do it as the star guy. So then I start to think, well, how does that matter? Because, Jordan stands were already discrediting the bubble title that apparently the Lakers were the only team that got an advantage from. But somehow Jordan's 6 rings were all legitimate, all counted, and all that stuff.
My dream scenario for LeBron is for him to have like an Iggy Finals MVP. like to win it on a team where he's definitely not the best player, and he's like 15-8-8 in the entire playoff run, but he wins it anyway. And so no one can be like, hey, man, he won the finals MVP. I don't know what you want me to do. Because that was a legitimate thing I used to say against Steph Curry for the longest time. It was like, hey, man, can't win the finals MVP. He can't do it. So that was back when I was in my peak Steph Curry hate. Now it's just kind of just mild annoyance with him.
Mild annoyance. That's a good category to be in. That's progress for you two, so I'll take it.
Yeah, in the new year, maybe that can be a category that we cover. But kind of, going off of that new year sort of look, obviously, we're recording this on December 29th. So hopefully it'll go out before the new year. We'll get our producers on that. So we kind of wanted to give a year in review, like talking about 2024 throughout world football and saying kind of what happened. So we're just looking at the entire, because, the way the season obviously goes, it's normally ends in May, starts in August. So it's kind of like weird. Even when I was doing research for this episode, it's kind of like, oh, damn, that wasn't even this year. That was 2023. It's kind of awkward to think of it as a calendar year. I remember when a couple years ago when Harry Kane broke the record for the most Premier League goals in a calendar year. And I was like,
is that even a record?
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know what that means. But
that's something the Global Soccer Awards Committee came up with.
Exactly. So we kind of wanted to take a look at 2024 as a whole. We have about 5 or 6 categories that we're definitely going to cover in depth. We have a couple of other categories that we might touch on here or there, no diddy. But really, again, just looking overall at 2024 as a year, but also sort of previewing 2025. So actually, let's start with the 2024 categories. I think it'd be better if we started off by looking back before we look forward. Again,
absolutely.
I don't have to say
the
it.
Past.
Yes. So let's go.
Said look at that.
The ever pessimist that I am. Let's start off with my personal favorite category of them all, and this is worst signing of 2024.
Yeah.
I have 5 candidates, 5 finalists, if you will, for this.
Nothing more of a lock than Ethan sticking with the Grinch theme after Christmas. So
I saw a TikTok of a little kid watching the Grinch for the first time and saying, "Yes, Grinch, steal all the presents." This kid was like 3, so that kind of feels like me doing one of these episodes. So I have 5 finalists, and again, when you're thinking worst transfer, Chad, why don't you give like a couple of criteria points? Because I think me and you are fairly aligned as to what makes a very bad signing.
Sure, a couple of things. Obviously, one. I think probably the biggest factor for me is what is the actual plan when the guy was signed. That's why I think Griezmann, and I don't want to go on a huge soliloquy about it, but that's why I think Griezmann to Barca still kind of has to go down as a worse transfer. Honestly, probably even worse than Dembele or Coutinho. Because at least with both of those guys, the thought was, all right, they're going to play on the left, and you could actually see them. They had experience playing on the left. With Griezmann, he had never played on the left in his entire career, and then all of a sudden they just asked him to as like an inside.
He played a little bit there at Sociedad, but he hadn't played there for like 8 years.
Okay, so my bad. In the last 10 years, he had played there like two games, so... My apologies, but yeah, that's the thing. He just didn't have any experience there, and they're like, yeah, that was the reason for the signing. So that's the number one thing. I would say the number 2, and for me would kind of put some of mine into this category, and maybe could be for you too, is what's the club looking like at the time financially? Like how much of this signing hindered you from being able to make other signings in other positions that maybe you needed to make? So to me, those are kind of like the 2 major things that stick out as far as what goes in. And then, of course, obviously, overall performance. And then we were talking about all time, I think the sell-on factor plays a piece. But all of these transfers are so new that, that part, we haven't gotten to that part of the story yet.
Right. It's actually funny you say all that, because those were some factors that even I didn't really factor in. If I were to say one through line that I say this makes a bad transfer, especially like you just said in the short term, like when you're looking at someone that's been signed within the past year, it's what what did you pay versus what are you getting out of it? Like,
Okay.
that's why transfers like Mikhailo Mudryk or, basically every single £100 million transfer outside of Kylian Mbappe to PSG. That's why all of those are so horrible, because it's like, I mean, I don't know if we've done this officially on the podcast, but like the Neymar transfer is a perfect example. It's like, oh, well, Neymar was a great player and he was this, that, and the other. I 100% agree with that, especially even for PSG, but he wasn't worth 200 million or 222 million. He just wasn't. And so it's like he might have even been worth 150 million. I mean, based on what he did at PSG. Even if you want to make that argument, that's fine. That's still 70 million pound overpay.
Yeah, exactly. Which is
So
a whole player.
A whole very good, very highly touted player. All right, that's one Tanguy Ndombele. So that's kind of what I went off of. Because again, it's short term. It's only stuff that's happened in the past year. I looked at what did they pay versus what's happening. So I have 5 finalists. Chad, you said you think you had 3 or 4. So let's see how much ours line up. All right, number 1, and I put I'll start from the lowest transfer fee paid and kind of work our way up. For 30 million to Chelsea.
Yeah. Oh.
Kieran Dewsbury Hall.
Oh, okay.
This goes along with what you were saying for your first criteria. It's like,
what was the plan?
So what was the plan? Yeah. Like all your best players are center mids, and now you're going to bring in a guy that's kind of an attacking. Yeah. Sorry, Cole Palmer's there. First of all, and you're going to bring
and your 2 most expensive players,
and you're going to bring in a guy that's like a championship level attacking midfielder or 8 type of. So has so many positions he doesn't have a position. So that was number 1. And then we have from Chelsea actually to Aston Villa. This is an interesting one because I did some research on this morning. Ian Maatsen, who basically has not played at all in the past 2 months, but paid £35 million for him. And again, these are all based on the short term. I know Ian Maatsen's young and he can still come good, but based on December 29th, 2024, right now it's a bad transfer. My third one for 42 million. This is one of your favorites from this past summer to Bayern. That is Joao Palhinha. Just
hasn't been good at all.
Hasn't been good at all.
Really.
Actually, he's been so good, or he's been so bad that Joshua Kimmich has actually refound his form in that 6th spot for Bayern.
I'm telling you, no matter how hard Bayern try, like there's they wrote in a rule with the devil when they won that Champions League title in 20 that it was like, hey, whatever happens, no matter what guys you bring in, it's still going to be Kimmich and Goretzka for like the next 7 years for no.
Which is funny because Goretzka was like the guy that was definitely going to leave their club every single window for 5 years. So.
Yeah. Company literally took him out of the squad in the beginning of the season and said he had no way back, and now the dude's starting week in, week out.
By the way, that was the death nail for Ian Maatsen because he didn't play 2 games ago, and then he was left out of the squad with no injury, no nothing in the last game. So
DMP coach's decision,
literally. Then we have Douglas Luiz, your favorite transfer of the summer to Juve, 42 million. Didn't honestly hate the move when it happened because, I don't know, I think Douglas Luiz is kind of one of those fall into the category what we talked about a couple episodes ago about like doing well for a team that's not as highly regarded, so everyone assumes he should or needs to take the next step up. Yeah. And if we're being honest, Juve kind of is at that level right now where it's like one step above maybe a club like a Villa right now. And he's not even getting it done there. Like Wes McKennie's getting his minutes, so that kind of says it all.
I think on the Luiz one, I'm gonna have to. I agree with you. The player, the player for the fee at the time didn't. I wasn't like mad at it, but I just didn't understand what the plan was for him because you knew Thiago Motta was coming in. You knew what his kind of the type of players he liked to use and the type of guys he liked playing with. And I didn't think and I didn't think Douglas Luiz kind of fit that mold from an athleticism standpoint, and from I don't know. I actually don't mind him as a vertical passer, but like especially from an athleticism pressing standpoint, I didn't think he made a lot of sense, especially knowing he was going to play in a 2-man midfield. So
exactly. Yeah.
that was my only counter. But I definitely did have Luis on mine as well.
Perfect. And then lastly, we have, of course, me and Chad's maybe combined favorite player, part of our favorite 100 million pound transfer.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have Joao Felix in 45 million to Chelsea.
Yeah.
If you had to guess, does he have in the league more bookings or goal contributions? Which one would you say that he has?
Well, because you said it, I'm gonna have to go bookings, but I still don't feel like that number has to be too high. Because what does he have? 3 goal contributions, maybe.
They're equal. It's 2 goal contributions, 2 bookings.
Oh wow! So I was giving him too much credit. I gotta say, I remember he scored that goal against Wolves. I think it was on his re-debut. Scored it. Looked like a good goal, like casual. Like, it was one of those tap-ins where it was like, hey, it was a tap-in, but I've also seen 10 guys miss that exact chance this weekend. So, and he made it look easy, and it was like, shit, could this dude be a spark for him? And that's all you hear. Because it was like right before international break, you hear that, and now you're about to rattle off pretty much what he's done since then.
Yeah, he's played under 300 minutes in the league. Again, 1 goal, 1 assist. There's going to be some Chelsea fans or whatever that are like, well, actually, he has X amount of goals and assists. All against Alphabet FC and stuff like that, and clubs that were founded in 2017, like that Noah FC club that they played recently, and just a whole bunch of stuff that's just not relevant.
Real quick on Chelsea in the Conference League. I saw they have a dude. Chelsea has a right back named Josh Achampong.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know this, but Chelsea has they have the best academy in the history of the sport. So anytime someone comes to the academy and goes to the first team, it's actually a rule that they have to be called a wonder kid. And this dude, they were like, after the performance, I think it literally was against Noah. They were like, man, this dude's world class. Lenny Euro cost 60 million. We got this dude for free. I was seeing a whole bunch of that, and I was like, tell me 3 players this guy is playing against, and I'll almost take the take seriously.
So, as a person that supported a club that played in the Europa League for a decent amount of time, there was nothing more, I guess, exciting when you're in a situation like that than watching the Europa League or, in this case, Conference League group stage games, because you're really sitting there watching oh my God, Charlie Gilmore is going to be the best center mid in the history of the club. Oh my God, Eddie Nketiah, next coming of Henry. Oh my God, this Reece Nelson kid, he is going to be the next big thing. And I know
got some Reece Nelson stock, by the way.
Oh, I always have Reece Nelson stock after that 95th minute winner against Bournemouth. But yeah, those Europa League, and I can't even imagine Conference League. I've never watched Conference League game in my life, so I can't imagine what the level must be. But I mean, judging,
it's atrocious.
I bet it's the preseason games that even you watch for certain clubs, but when you convince yourself oh, this guy might be able to do it. This guy had a little something, because I saw him running at a 17-year-old left back one time, and he did a couple of things stuff like that. But that all being said, I have to say Joao Felix is the worst transfer of this window, because like you said, there's no real plan. One, he doesn't even have a position. If I asked 4 people or 5 people what his best position is, I think they would all give a different answer. I think one would say, no, he's a left winger. One would say, oh, he's supposed to be a false 9. One would say, oh, he's supposed to be a 10. One would say, oh, he doesn't have a position. He's just supposed to be allowed to float, like Thomas Muller or something like that. So I don't really know what...
Did Muller ruin the sport?
That's not unfair to say, especially when he was scoring goals for Bayern and Germany, and he was playing up top. But you know what he did is he ruined Bayern, because now, since he did that thing where he was playing center forward but not, now they think that they can just put anyone up there. It's I think Serge Gnabry can just play striker, because we can just throw guys up there.
That goes back to another classic and it wasn't like the worst signing of all time because the fee wasn't even bad. But classic, no plan at all for the signing. Sadio Mane, when he went to Bayern, it was like, yeah, this dude's just gonna play. He's gonna exclusively play up top for us, and it's like the dude who's been playing left wing for the last 10 years. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Because he lost a little bit of pace, so he can just play center forward. Because that's what happens. Like if he just, Ronaldo did it. He lost a little bit of pace. Yeah, he's also 6'2" and maybe the best attacking aerial threat that we had in the modern game. But I mean, I think 5'9" Sadio Mane can do it too. He's shown no capabilities of being able to play center forward, but I think he can do it as well.
And again, to be fair, I like the Mane signing. Like I was drinking the Kool-Aid, all that shit. But now looking back on it, now that I know a little bit more, I'm like, what the hell was even the plan for that one? So
yeah. So what do you rate that worst signing, or do you think it should have been someone else?
No, I agree with you on Felix being the worst because he was definitely in consideration for mine. I had him and Luis of the, I had asked you, I was like, what 5 or how many are we going to have that are the same? Luis and Felix definitely. I gotta say, I'm a little bit jealous of the Kiernan Dewsbury Hall deal because him and Maatsen both, I almost just don't even think about because it's like, because to me the thing is like, I gotta be real honest. If we're looking at a fee for a super big club, which Chelsea definitely are, Villa, they're not obviously a huge club, but you could argue like transfer wise, they can spend money with pretty much the best of them.
Mm-hmm.
It takes, to me, I think you have to be over 50 million before you can really start looking at someone being like, all right, this dude is a bust. Like, there are bad signings. Those happen all the time. Kind of like what you said, people who just don't live up to the transfer value that was paid for them. Like, that happens with most transfers, to be quite honest. But to be actually considered a truly awful signing, I think it has to be like over 50 million, which... If you're talking euros, to me, 50 million euros, I mean, which as Luis and Felix just barely cracked that list, so they're able to stay on there. So I'm not mad at it.
Where do you get the euros to buy these players? Nah, but
we got
also
a little Camel Cash transfer in the back.
Also, who just escaped my my list because this is one of the guys I said in the preseason. Elliot Anderson has 5 assists in the league, and his team is in 4th.
He's been okay. He's been
good. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, this was a great signing or I love this signing, but I'm not going to kill it, especially not right now.
No, they did the thing that I've been asking for against Brentford, where they played basically they played the midfield of Ryan Yates, Elliot Anderson, and Gibbs White, and just kind of had Gibbs White and Anderson playing as the attacking eights.
Right.
And it looked very good. It looked very good.
They're at an inflection point right now where they're either going to continue to kind of do what they've been doing, and it might stop working because teams might figure it out, or they're going to get too big for their britches, start trying to play like attacking football, and they're just going to start getting shit on. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen second half of this season for them. But let's go on to best signing of 2024.
Oh, I do just want to add 2 quick ones for mine for the worst signings that I had.
Billing
the other
Jr.?
2 guys. To Bologna, that was horrible. Or I guess to Villa and then on loan to Bologna. Awful. He's going to get recalled, by the way. Vlado Chimas to Newcastle, that's just staple, worst signing. 23.6 million euros. Hasn't played a minute. I mean, literally moved to Forest for like under 10 million. Played like 10 games for them and then moved for 23.6. I get it. They had to do that, so then the Elliot Anderson thing happened. I wish at some point we could just use common sense with the transfer window where we could just be like, hey, these 2 teams, like, we know exactly what you did. We're going to give you guys both a points deduction. I don't care. I don't need evidence. I'll just go on Transfermarkt and just say, hey, his value is this, and you paid 3 times it.
Well, it's like what is it? Like the housing market? One of the markets, it's like you have. It's like this sale is not legal because it's so undervalued. Like we can't allow this as like the governing body or whatever.
Yeah, in the Premier League and stuff with the some of the commercial money that Chelsea got from selling a hotel to like a third party that actually owned the club. They're like hey, we had to get a fair market value for it to like pass through or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's
shout out to Vladimir. And then who was your other one?
And then the one who I actually have as the worst signing is Victor Roque to Barcelona for 30 million euros. The fee, not completely outrageous, but the thing is, like, Barca have not been able to spend money at all, so then they finally are able to spend 30 million.
And they spent it on him.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's not even that they haven't been able to spend money, because if you look back on it, the last couple of windows, I think you'd actually be surprised with how much Barca have managed to spend. But, like, every time it's like, you know, a crisis at the club to, like, sign someone for 40 or 50 million. And then you have this guy here like, yeah, we'll just grab him for 30 in January. And it's like he's been literally contributed nothing to the team. And
contributed a little for Betis.
He's actually okay against us when he came on for them. But, I mean, I'm talking about a dude who came on after 75 minutes, and he cost 30 million for Barca. So clearly, there's a disconnect there.
So why don't you give us a couple of your thoughts on best transfer? I actually thought when I was doing the research, I thought there were some really decent bargain buys that we had in 2024, and then there was only one big money signing, I guess you could say, that's worked out so far.
Okay, I got. I'll just go through my three real quick. First, starting off was a January signing. Looks a little weird right now, but I think is going to pay off in the long run, and that's Arthur Vermeeren to Atletico Madrid for 18 million. Obviously, he's on loan at Leipzig right now. Made perfect sense. Was never going to really play at Atletico this season. I think he's only like 19 or 20, but kind of has that all action from the base of midfield type of game that I think you've been able to see Simeone actually use in a bunch of different guys. Like, no matter who they've had playing at the base of midfield for them, since they've kind of played the back three, whether it was, you know, Koke, Saul, Marcos Llorente, Rodrigo de Paul, like, all of those guys have been way more than just a holding number 6. So I think Vermeeren kind of fits that mold, and he could make sense for them, you know, as he continues to develop and Simeone trusts him a bit more. Talk to me.
Just looked it up, and RB Leipzig have an obligation to buy once certain conditions are met.
Oh shit. Okay. So, do you know what the price for that is? I know
it does not say. It does not say.
Okay. Well, I'll be honest.
50.
Get the hell out of here. Well, whatever it is, I'm almost positive it's going to have to be for a profit. I mean, when they signed him for 18 million, I honestly thought that was like half the price of what it could have gotten to. So,
and also, Royal Antwerp do have a £10 million or 10% sell on clause. So I guess it would have to be for at least a decent amount if you're bringing in a guy for 18 that's 19 years old. Probably gonna have to be for a decent profit.
Yeah. So again, maybe that kind of takes it or puts a hit to me saying it was one of the best transfers, but a guy who you pick up and then you're immediately able to flip for money, I'm not going to say that's a bad deal at all. Next two I have are both summer signings. Mazraoui to United, you know, for 15 million. I think that one, like, you could argue he's been one of the best United players this season.
Well, shit.
I was gonna say that doesn't set the bar very high at all, but at the same time, like, I think he's proven to be really competent as a right back for them, and it's also proven, like, I don't understand what Bayern's been doing for the last couple of years. Like, they just. And granted, I was just saying Vermeeren, if you pick him up and sell him for a profit 12 months later, you know, that's not a problem. They did pick up Mazraoui on a free, but they let him go, and then they let him go for 15, so that's fine. But you look at them, they literally have, like, no right backs right now. They've been playing Guerrero at right back, who's, like, a left back / number 8, and he's been playing right back for the last month or two with Conrad Leimer, so it didn't make a lot of sense when it came to their squad, but I've liked it for United. And then the last one, the transfer that I think has been the best transfer of 2024, Joao Neves to PSG.
You were always a big fan.
I just think this guy is, like, sick. So I could honestly, it's just nothing. It's like one of those guys who, like, you watch so much and you think he's just so good that, like, you understand it, but you just can't really explain it. Basically,
especially with the position he plays, it's not really one of those things where you can bring up a ton of stats and.
I will say the thing I love most is his ability to distribute the ball from deep while also bringing a true defensive midfield presence. Not the biggest guy, certainly not a good aerial threat by any means, but like is a true ground duel winner. Like actually gets a decent tackle and interception number, considering he's playing in a side that has like 60% possession,
98th percentile for tackles.
Yeah, exactly. From a guy who's, like I said, playing on a team who's getting at least 65 to 70% possession, considering the way that Luis Enrique wants to play. So I think he's just an all-arounder. Actually, he's leading league in assists right now. So João Neves, my best signing of 2024.
Who do you think is leading Europe in tackles per 90?
So I'm going to assume this is like a defensive midfielder. It would have to be... Who's just like a... I would say maybe Yusuf Fofana.
Manuel Ugarte.
Hey man, he hasn't been horrible. Like he was.
No, I like him. I just think it's funny that you're kind of playing for, because normally, for context for most people, most of the time you see these kind of numbers really pop up for teams that either never have the ball or just generally suck ass. Like I remember back when our boy Cal Phillips, was playing for Leeds, or like Chad said, Joao Palhinha. It's like, well, they have to cover so much ground because their team isn't very good, or they never have the ball, so you're putting in a lot of tackles and stuff. So it's just funny that someone who's playing at maybe the best club or the biggest club in England is leading in tackles per 90.
4.5 almost. That's kind of insane. I mean, to be fair, he's the only one who's doing any defensive work for United, so that could be the reason, but still not a great sign.
His entire FB Ref page is just green in tackles, interceptions, and then like literally no green the entire rest of the page. So I like that. I like those signings, and I also like that they were different than mine. I kind of looked for bargain deals within the Prem. As you guys, you said it.
The Hamill roll.
Yeah, exactly. So, two that were about the same price. One that I don't feel amazing about, but I still wanted to put it anyway. Ismail Assar for 12. I've always been a fan of his, and I really like the fact that that he's at a club where he can kind of flourish, kind of do some things that he might not be able to get away with at a bigger club, but still able to contribute. He's been good recently too, over the past month. One that I highlighted in the summer that I'm going to bring up now because of how his team is doing, especially Nick Milenkovic.
Yes, you were high on him. You were definitely high on him.
For $12 million. Again, his team's in fourth. They've been defensively very, very solid. And, kind of called that one a little bit in the summer. One that another Palace signing that I was really excited about to find out, because I forgot that he joined in January, for $6.8 million, Daniel Munoz, who is kind of entering like that Anthony Robinson type of class where it's like, oh, he should move to a bigger club, but it's like, please don't, because you're not going to do well. But I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, if their issues were at right back instead of left back, I wouldn't hate him at United being a part of that 3-4-3. Just because of his engine, even if he's not the starter, just like a guy that can get up and down the flank, and like if we have to play Daniel Munoz in a big game, I'm not going to feel bad about it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy who can play a supplemental role, but it's got to be, as you said, in a back three. I just don't think he can.
No.
Everyone.
Play right back.
I don't know. I don't know how many times you've had to make that mistake of like, oh, he's right wing back, but he's going to play right back. So it'll happen with Frimpong in the next couple months, but let it be him and not.
I'm about to say, easy way to find out if someone has any ball knowledge or not. Ask them if Jeremy Frimpong. Ask who he should move to. If they say any club that plays a back four, then you're just automatically done. The only big money signing that I have on here is Michael Olise. He's been really, really good for Bayern. He's 9-9 in all comps so far in 23 games. which is really, really good. I honestly was a bit skeptical. I'm always skeptical of players moving like maybe 2 or 3 steps up with one transfer, and like him from Palace to Bayern. But he's been really, really good. I'm not going to sit here and say I watch every single Bayern game or even a ton of Bayern games, but I think he's been good, and obviously he's been putting up the GA, which I'm always a big fan of, and Bayern's been good. So I'm a fan of that signing.
He's really been able to nail down that right wing spot too. Like there is obviously going into the season some competition with Sané, Coman, who's always been kind of favored to play more on the left, I guess. But then Serge Gnabry was coming back from an injury-riddled season. But Olise's really made that right-hand side his position, and like everyone else has to kind of fight for the spot on the left. So really impressive.
Yeah. So, and then the one I actually put as my signing of 2024 was a January signing. And I also have him down as my favorite player to watch in 2024, which is a later category, but I'm going to just talk about it all right now. And that's Morgan Rogers. Morgan Rogers of Aston Villa. £8 million
nice.
From Middlesbrough.
Man.
And he is honestly... I mean, he has honestly kind of managed something I've never really seen before, to where he can come straight from the Championship into the Prem and just plays well. Like it's not a thing where he has to bet in or he's getting there. It's just you straight up, like when we played against Villa earlier this year, even though Ollie Watkins missed literally the easiest header of all time and whatever, but the guy I was constantly scared of picking up the ball was Morgan Rogers. Like, he's kind of picked up that role from, like, Moussa Dembele at Spurs back in the day, a Yaya Toure, that kind of a runner with the ball. And he's kind of impossible to stop once he gets going, unless you foul the shit out of him. And he's also added goals to his game, which I really, really enjoy. He's a younger player. Like, based on his stature and stuff, you would think that he's, like, 28, but he's not.
Yeah. 22.
And so it's just really, really impressive what Morgan Rogers has been able to do. And I think come the back half of the season, I know if you just look straight up at the table, it's like, well, Villa are in 9th or whatever they are, but I think they're only a point off of 5th. So that like 10th to 5th is, I think it's all separated by a point. I think some teams are on 28, some teams are on 29 points, kind of in that range. And I really think he's going to be the key reason why Villa, I think, are going to end up in the top 4 for me personally. I think it's going to be Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Villa. I think are going to be our top 4.
Wow!
And I think Morgan Rogers is going to be a huge reason for that. And getting that for £8 million out of the Championship, you really can't ask for any better of a signing.
That's a great. I love that pick. I'm very jealous of that pick because I love Rodgers as well, but didn't even think about him. So you got the you definitely win on that one. Let's kind of keep moving through. We got a couple more categories to hit. And we promise we won't take as long on the other ones because we did spend a good bit of time on that one. Let's stick with the 2024 ones, like you said. Favorite players, favorite teams to watch. You kind of alluded to your player already with Rodgers. Do you have anybody else that kind of came to mind, or was he just kind of the one guy?
Well, guys like Jeremy Doku and Savinho, I just really, really love that they just go out there and try stuff. Yeah, when they start giving the head shake and then kick the ball to the other team, like I love that. Yeah, obviously I'm joking, but I don't know. There's just not a lot of players that I don't really like to watch players. Like, if that makes sense. I'm not one of those people that watches the game to be like, oh man, I gotta see this guy today, or I gotta see that guy. I just really like watching teams. If I were to say, I guess because it's not like a team, but like a group of players that I like to watch. I like watching Bournemouth's forwards. Like, because it's just like...
You're an Evan Nilsson guy?
Evan Nilsson and Kluivert and Semenyo, and then they just got, like, guys running around out there. When they put on Ouattara, it's electric, and I'm just like, what's going on? Everyone's running at people, and it's just on the counter, they're so dynamic, and even Ryan Christie gets involved every once in a while, and it's just just like that, watching their forwards play is just really, really exciting, and I enjoy their forwards. Tavernier, like you never know,
He's bombing up from right back.
I say once every 5 months he'll just cut inside and hit one top ends and stuff like that, and yeah, I just really like the Bournemouth forward. So I guess it's not really a player to watch, but those forwards at Bournemouth I really enjoy watching, along with Morgan Rogers, who Cole Palmer said invented this celebration. So that's always got to go on his CV.
But Trae Young didn't confirm it, so we're still waiting on that one.
I'm not giving anyone credit for anything until Serge Gnabry gives a royalty check to James Harden for that.
Yeah, Harden did start. To be fair, Gnabry started it with the right hand. James Harden's lefty, so he was cooking with the left. Gnabry started with the right, and it really did never look right, so I'm proud of myself for that one.
The only thing that Gnabry, I guess, did it better is that, or different, is he also had the wrist tape. He had the wrist tape that made it look pretty tough.
I mean, I think we talked about this before, but there was a period of time where at Bayern it was in the contract where it's like, hey, you got to wear tape on your hand or wrist at some point. Because they had like half of their 11, I swear I remember a Champions League game where it's like, does everyone on this team have a broken hand? Like, what's going on? So, but what about team-wise? Any team? I guess Bournemouth maybe could fall into that category as well, but what other teams kind of grab your attention?
Well, the person that knows this the best is my fiance, Savannah. She knows that if there's relegation football on, I will be watching it.
Not leaving the house.
And the team that has really encapsulated the relegation battle the best this year, and even stretching back to last year, is Wolves. Yeah. Wolves under Gary O'Neill was just like, it was like watching a dude shoot dice blindfolded with one hand, or with like one hand has been blown off, the other hand has no fingers. He's just like throwing.
Came back.
Yeah. He was just throwing shit at the wall and just seeing if it worked. If it didn't, he's like, man, we dropped another 18 points in the last 6 games. I don't know, but we scored 17 somehow. But we also conceded 44. So, I mean, that Wolves team under Gary O'Neill, I'm going to miss it a lot. I saw they won 1-0 the other day, and then they won 2-0 against United.
Against United, yeah.
And it was just really, really sad to see them only score really one goal, and then they scored a garbage time sort of 2-0 tap-in thing. And it was just like, man, if this was a month ago, it would have been a 6-5 win. At Molineux, so I really, really missed that Gary O'Neill side already. So that was my team that's most fun to watch. It's kind of not a sexy pick, but just the chaos and the Mateus Cunha just running all over the place and literally playing center forward, but running all the way back, picking it up from the center back and just bombing forward. Nori, like playing as like a flying winger, even though he's like an actual left back, and seeing him take people on in his own half with like flip-flaps and nutmegs and stuff, it's a fun time.
Can I ask you a quick question about Cunha?
Hit me.
Has he become the most overrated player in the last 3 weeks?
He's coming up later. Actually, I guess it's not really a category, so I guess I can talk about it now. One of the categories we kind of maybe we're going to talk about was a breakout player. Oh, no, never mind. Well, I guess we're going to talk about it later. I'll save my Cunha thoughts.
Good tease. I'll just get mine out of the way, and then we can move on to that category, because now I'm kind of fascinated. Team-wise, you went super, I wouldn't say super niche, because, I mean, they are in the Premier League, so it's not like you're saying...
Bristol.
Yeah, you're not hitting us with Bochum or something like that. But for me, I'm going with a very basic answer, very TikTok-type answer. I've got Juve. Juve are my favorite team to watch. I think Thiago Motta, granted, he hasn't fully, his tactics and his vision hasn't fully been integrated into the team. I think they are still a bit more defensive than I think people were anticipating. Granted, they do have like I think they have like the second or third best defense in all of Europe. Yeah, so they're definitely up there defensively. Attacking wise, it's moments and it's spurts, but I just when they have guys like Conseil Sal coming in off the right who you're shaking your head bad. I don't know. Is that
I needed him desperately? I needed him desperately this past summer.
Yeah. He was a miss. I mean, not a miss, but he could have helped out a lot of teams for sure. Especially right now with that Saka injury, he could have been doing some good for you.
Martinelli on the right against Ipswich was just like actually criminal behavior.
So yeah, Conseil Sal. I mean, they have my favorite midfield in all of Europe, pretty much. Thuram, Coop Miners, and Locatelli. So, what's that face?
Douglas Luiz.
Well, I mean, he hasn't played ever since he did this one and got that handball against Leipzig 20 seconds after coming on. So it's tough for me to put him in their midfield.
Class.
But yeah, Juve's my favorite team. Players, I kind of just have a quick list. Couple of basic answers, couple of whatever. Khéphren Thuram, as I just mentioned with Juve, like single-handedly, I think might be my favorite player to watch. I didn't realize how big and physical and strong he actually was, but then to mix it with the technical ability he has, I think is just sick. So he's awesome. Brahim Diaz is my favorite Real Madrid player because he has a lot of that Morgan Rogers, but then at the same time he's like 5'7", so it's like it doesn't make any I saw someone one time, like there was one of those stupid TikToks that had some song over it that has nothing to do with the TikTok, whereas Brahim Diaz, and like one of the comments was like Real Madrid's Messi or whatever, and it was like obviously a joke and obviously funny, but then at the same time, like, you close your eyes and you're like, this is like dribbling wise, he has it, and obviously he's never going to be the player Messi is, not even close, but dribbling wise, as far as just you can't take it off of him when he's in third gear, he just has it. And then a couple of wingers. Anthony Gordon, who his work rate. I know it's stupid to say, I love this winger because of his work rate, but it'll be 94th minute and this dude's like playing left back and then sprinting all the way up the field for the counter just to not get the ball. And then Yankuba Mente, like when I watched him in his debut for Brighton earlier this year, I was like, is this real? Like, who is this guy? Because I can promise you, I do watch a bit of Eredivisie, but I wasn't super locked into Feyenoord that last year to really remember him. So then watched him this year, and I'm like, man, he's awesome. And he's been kind of in and out with injury, so it's been a bit of a stop-start. But yeah, I really like Menta to watch as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I like all those shouts. I like Anthony Gordon as well. He's kind of falling off for me, though, because he's kind of falling into a lot of weird stuff that I just don't like in wingers. Where, I mean, he's become the worst diver in the entire league, which is not a personal fan favorite of mine. But it only counts.
You can move to La Liga and you'd be 15th for diving. So
yeah, it only counts if you're wearing an Arsenal crest and you limp off the pitch and then you actually tear a hamstring. That's the only time where I guess diving comes into play. By the way, the best dive of all time I saw the other day, Fulham-Chelsea, when Pedro Neto, I'm not going to say he didn't get touched, but he definitely didn't get touched anywhere above the neck, grabs his face, rolls around on the ground literally for an entire minute straight as Fulham go down and score the equalizer. That was one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
Actually, it might have been the winner now that I think about it, but either way.
It was the winner. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then they, like, cut to the celebrations, and just, like, in the bottom corner, you just see him still grabbing his face, writhing in pain, kicking at the ground. And so that was one of my personal favorites. It was sad because Pedro Neto, one of my favorite players, and he was at Wolves, and now he joined that club. So let's move on to breakthrough player projection 2025. So, again, me and Chad a lot of times have different interpretations of what this means. For me, this just means that they are at a certain level of fame or playing level or whatever, and then it's just gonna shoot through the moon. I think that Mateus Cunha has a legitimate shot of being this because I think he's going to get a weird move to like a United in the summer. Yeah. And because it's kind of classic, like, oh, this dude shat on us when we played against him. He's pretty good. He has some pedigree. I mean, he's Wolves' best player.
Doc
So why
Rivers,
not take a shot on him? And his career CV already, even at his age, is
that's
like
weird.
kind of insanity. Like, I don't really understand it. He's only 25 years old, and he's already played
Especially
for
the order that it happened in.
yeah, and he's already played for FC Sion in Switzerland. Moved to Leipzig for 2 years. Played for Hertha Berlin for a year. Played for Atletico for about a year and a half. Went on loan to Wolves in 2023 and then moved on to permanent that summer. So it's just been move after move after move for him. I mean, for him, he's probably getting pretty antsy considering how long he's been at
Yes.
he's been at Wolves for 2 entire years now. So he's probably getting pretty uncomfortable there. But he just comes across as. Hopefully they won't, because this is basically going to be the third summer in a row they've done something like this. But like kind of bring in a forward that's like kind of center forward, but not really goal scorer. Like if they trotted out, and again the 3-4-3, if they trotted out a front three of Højlund, Cunha, and Xerxes, I might lose my mind.
No, it'd be horrible. I don't think Xerxes will even be on. I think if they move for Cunha, that means Xerxes is not on the team anymore. Personally,
Especially since he moved there 5 months ago. So that's good.
Yeah, well, they're taking the Forest goalkeeping approach to the United center forward position, where it's like, hey, we'll just sign guys every window. Don't count us out. Don't count us out.
But I think he's really going to break through as far as, again, if you move to United, your name's going to be out there way more. You're gonna have some weird pedigree, even if you flop at United. There's gonna be some weird.
So I do have a question, because I guess I'm not. Maybe you're either just playing both sides really well here, or maybe you haven't decided. But do you think he would be like a good signing for United? Like,
no,
okay,
I
so
don't.
so you're saying his profile will break through, but him as a player, it would his reputation would probably take a hit more so.
Well, I mean, think of like a guy like a Joao Felix, maybe, where it's like he would probably be considered that breakthrough player of like 2019 or whatever year he got that huge move, because he went from basically playing in the Europa League to being a £100 million player, and ever since then it's been everyone taking a chance. I mean, look at the clubs he's played for. He's played for Atletico, he's played for Barca, he's played for Chelsea. Like big club after big club after big club, and
all because one club spent a whole bunch of money on him.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and I could see Matheus Cunha being that next guy. Now he's already had big club pedigree, but there's no reason why he couldn't go United and then
Juve.
And then Juve is like, that's interesting.
Something like that.
Inter, and even after he flops at Juve, he goes there and scores 5 goals in a year, and then Inter or maybe not a PSG, maybe like a Monaco.
That's when Atletico won him back.
Atletico won him back. So like, oh, we can actually use this guy, and then they play a weird front two of like him and Alvarez, and then like Griezmann's corpse comes off the bench every once in a while, things like that. So I think that that United move that I guess projecting for him could be the thing that really propels him into stardom and sets him up really for the rest of his life.
I tell you, when you first kind of said it, I was a bit confused, but laying out the case, I actually think it's a really good case. Like, that's
the next coming of Joao Felix.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm kind of projecting for him in 2025.
Yeah, almost like a weird Choupo-Moting, Joao Felix, like kind of combination type thing.
And there's no telling that Joao Felix won't be Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. Like, I could definitely see him winning a Champions League with like you said, like an Inter in like 5 years, where it's like,
oh yeah,
where it's like, well, wait, who's playing the 10 for Inter? Oh wait, Joao Felix? I mean, shit, I saw him get to a European final with Henrik Mkhitaryan, being a key part of their lineup, and I thought he was washed 5 years ago. So
yeah, well, I mean, playing him and Acerbi both now, I think is like Simone Inzaghi's way of being like, hey, I could just do this way better, but I'm just choosing not to. I'm choosing to make it hard for myself. But
yeah, so
but, yeah.
Who do you think your breakthrough player? First, give your sort of how you took it,
and
then sort of what came of that.
Yeah, so I looked at it kind of a bit differently, which is why I was thrown off by Cunha, mainly because of his age. Like, for me, I'm looking specifically at probably like under 21 guys who are at a, obviously the term wonder kid gets thrown around obviously way more than it should, but like just someone that kind of fits that profile. It's kind of hard to say because it's like there are certain rules but also not rules. Like, obviously you have to be under a certain age, and then you have to not be at a super club already, most likely. Although when I look at the because I kind of made a short list of guys, and then I look at it, and one of mine is already at a super club, but he hasn't really like fully broken through,
Right.
fully broken through. So, that season that kind of really puts you on the map, I would say.
Okay.
You look back at maybe Jude Bellingham, his first year at Dortmund. A million guys in their first year at Dortmund, to be quite honest. I'm thinking Dio Upamecano, especially, like the first year he came to Leipzig. Like, these are just certain guys. So that's kind of the mold I'm looking at. And I've got 4 guys, and I'll just rattle through them all quickly. Luka Vuskovic, number 1. Who I send you a tweet about maybe once a week. I have for the past couple weeks. On loan right now at Wisterio in Belgium. Started every league game for them so far. So, he's still owned, I think, technically by Hajduk Split, but is going to be moving to Tottenham in, I believe, this summer.
Yep.
So has had a weird couple of years. Actually broke through Hajduk Split's academy at 15, and then was on loan in Poland last year, and it was like, what the hell? And now he's on loan in Belgium. But I'll be excited to see him go to Spurs. I think Spurs kind of have a chance to maybe look at themselves and kind of become the wonder kid factory for the Premier League top 6. And I know that's the ESPN stat, qualifier of the day, but when you look at a lot of the young guys they have, like, and Ange is playing them, a lot of it more so now is, Archie Gray's playing a whole bunch. Granted, it's out of position and that's out of necessity, but like even, last year, Udogie, when he kind of broke through the squad, Pape Sarr, like they are bringing through younger guys and he's giving them chances. So when even Wilson Odobert, who I think was probably going to play a really big role for them this year, but has dealt with a lot of injuries. So I'll be fascinated to see if Vuskovic can kind of, next year, does he stick with the Spurs squad? Does he start to get maybe, you talked earlier about Europa League, Conference League group stage, where like that shit's kind of a joke. If Tottenham make that, does he get some starts and all of a sudden put himself on the map?
If Tottenham make that, that's my favorite part of. That's my favorite part of this episode so far.
It's pretty unlikely, but you never know. You never know. The other guys I'll rattle through quicker because I know I said quickly and then talk for 5 minutes. Rodrigo Moura, 17-year-old winger for Porto, is just broken through in the last 2 months, probably 3 goals, 3 assists. Biggest thing I learned while looking up him and his profile, do you know the first division in Portugal is no longer called Liga NOS?
No longer what, sorry?
It's no longer called Liga NOS, the first tier in Portugal. It's now just called Liga Portugal, which I gotta say, that's a bit of a downgrade. That's a bit of a downgrade name-wise.
Well, I mean, La Liga is literally called La Liga, which I think when, like, for us English speakers is cute.
The league.
But it's literally called the league, so it's like, what the hell? So I think everything's an upgrade on that, but, that's definitely a downgrading name.
I don't think Liga and McDonald's is an upgrade on that. I gotta be honest.
I mean, Liga really walked, I guess, so La Liga
Uber
could
Eats.
run.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Uber Eats and then the Domino's kind of, compounding on itself.
It's horrible. It's horrible. Then the other 2 real quick, I'll talk about at the same time because they might be teammates here in a second. That's Antonio Silva at Benfica, 21-year-old center back. Has only started 7 to 16 league games this year under your boy Bruno Lage. So after starting 59 of 64 league, or 59 of 68 league matches in the previous 2 seasons. So not quite sure why that's happening, but whatever. he's been heavily linked with the move to Juve. His agent even came out the other day, George Mendes, and had a statement that literally said, Antonio wants Juve, Juve want Antonio. It's just up to Benfica. So it's crazy because I think Juve have actually had some really good transfer dealings in the past 12 months, and that was a category we were thinking about, but didn't decide to go forward with. I think they would probably be the winner. I think there's a weird world where they could maybe get him on like a loan with like a $40 million obligation to buy, just because, like I said, 7-16 starts this season. Like, he's clearly not favored for whatever reason. So that could be like, that could get him to that next level. And obviously, young defenders going to Juve have had a checkered history. Look at De Ligt. Although De Ligt at Juve, I still say is better than people remember. And then the last guy, probably the best, definitely the best player of the group so far, Kenan Yildiz, already 19-year-old, probably you could almost say is already on the scene. 4 goals, 4 assists in 1,700 minutes.
But you project him taking that next step.
Yeah, like I'm thinking like he can be like a 10-10 type of guy, like in the next, I mean, it'd be damn hard for him to get there this season, but like maybe starting next season. As Juve become a little bit more attacking, a little bit more progressive, he could be a 10-10 type of guy for them. Did you know that he was actually a Bayern Academy player for a decade?
No, a decade?
2012 to 2022. Captained their U19 side for like 2 years. And then they just let him go because he said Juve offered him better opportunities. So kind of just goes in line with the overall theme of this show, which is Bayern's transfer business hasn't made any sense for 4 years.
Yeah, which is kind of sad because they kind of used to be the model of stability for like super clubs. It was like, we're never buying over the price tag. We're going to get players on freeze. Everyone wants to come to Bayern, so they'll come for a cut price and they'll ask out.
We're going to use our political power within the country to get us cheaper deals.
Exactly. Like, we'll literally look at you who made the Champions League and be like, hey, your best player wants to come to us. And then they're like, he does? He didn't say anything about it. And then it's like, okay, well, we got him now for like 18 million euros.
I mean, Upamecano going there for 40 million still just to this day doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, exactly.
When he was like the top center back prospect in the whole world.
Well, that was when it was just straight bullshit, because if you wanted anyone out of because like literally any club that wanted anyone out of the Bundesliga, it was just like, not going to happen, because it was like
going to Bayern.
Well, it was like, hey, Upamecano, he's either going to go to Liverpool for 80 or he's going to go to Bayern for 40. Like, what the hell is going on out here? Like, who sells within their league for a cut rate?
Half the price. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
didn't make any sense. So,
but I like the breakthrough.
Good breakout year. I predict. I'd love to see him versus Garnacho for like the next 2 years. Like, who's going to kind of take that leap as far as like the next great left winger, if it's even.
Well, I'm having conversations with myself in the car now about since I'm driving the Garnacho bandwagon. I think I'm alone. I think I'm alone in there right now.
No. I'm still there. I've been there. I've been there. Yeah, you might be driving, but I'm definitely navigating. I've got MapQuest out. I don't even need like Google Maps or anything. I'm using it old school. I like this story of him leaking the lineup when it's really just like, hey, I texted my best friend like that I'm not starting tomorrow. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Cool. So, that's the difference right there.
Yeah. So, I don't get that's United Media for you.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go 2025 storyline you're most looking forward to, because this could be truly anything. It can be, a player moving, a club doing whatever, because it could really mean anything, which is kind of why it's fun. So the 2025 storyline Chad is most looking forward to is
which Bundesliga manager gets sacked first? That's my number one thing that I'm looking at between Rosa and Nuri Sahin, because as you know, my guy ETH is going to take over whichever one of those clubs does sack their manager first. I think you could make a really good case for both of them. Like, Dortmund are just, it's so weird. Like, and it kind of sucks because you get into this like you get this label on you, and then all of a sudden, like you literally cannot shake it at all. And that's kind of what's happened to Dortmund. So like whenever they lose a game, they don't just lose the game. It's, oh my God, they pulled a Dortmund again. You know, they were winning and then they lost, or they were losing and then they continue to lose, or even if
trust
they
me,
win a
I
game
know the feeling.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. You're a great person
Bottle
to
jobs.
kind of look at. Yeah, exactly. It's
Dortmund,
like, hey, dude,
Dortmund bottle jobs again. Even though their team's nowhere near as good as Bayern's, they bottled it. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. Now, did it suck that they lost the league that year, and should they have absolutely won that game? Yeah, but at the same time, who before the season was saying that Dortmund had a better squad and a better chance to win the league than Bayern? No one.
Right.
It's just it took the 34th game of the year to have it shake out in that way. So Dortmund and Nuri Sahin has already had some huge calls that just didn't make any sense. Going 2-0 up against Real Madrid and then just kind of making defensive subs. Just like
put a center half on for the second half, right? Took off a forward or a midfielder and put on a center half. So
yeah, exactly. So he's already made some big calls that haven't gone his way. For whatever reason, he's not playing certain guys either. Karim Adeyemi just is no longer in the squad for whatever reason. So interested to see that. And then Leipzig were weird because they had like a really nice stretch to start the year, and then all of a sudden, like the Champions League stuff, it was like, whoa, okay, they lost one, okay, they lost two, and they bottled the two games against Atletico and Juve. Like I hate to be a Dortmund guy, but they had leads like late in both of those. The Juve game, they were up in the 65th minute, and Juve had a man sent off. Like, there's no way you should lose that. But then it just got to the point now where it's like, shit, they literally don't have a single point. And then their league form started to kind of fall off a bit too, and they started losing some horrible games. And now I'm like, is Marco Rosa, like, I know he's good, but like, is he good, or is he just fine? So that's the point where I'm at with them. I could see either one of them getting sacked in the next month or so. So and then Erik ten Hag takes over and takes either one of them to the Champions League final.
and then it's like, wait, Erik ten Hag's a good manager? It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Exactly. The Jadon Sancho, but for managers.
Yeah. I have my own Jadon Sancho thoughts, so.
Mine probably align with yours, so we can just agree and keep it moving there.
Yeah, the one that
what
I'm.
about you? Tell me your storyline.
I think Josko Gvardiol being put out as literally the worst defender, like at defending in the history of the sport. I literally just saw not 5 seconds ago this dude with the attacker on his back tries to head it back to Ortega with Jamie Vardy standing in between the two of them, and then Vardy rounded the goalkeeper, almost scored. So.
Vardio literally can't head the ball back to the keeper. Like, that's honest to God something very specific and
it's
very
like
weird
the
in his game. Honestly, like ever since he did that header back to Garnacho intercepting it in the FA Cup final, like this dude has not been able to head the ball back to the keeper since.
Yeah, but in all honesty, it's kind of a boring one, but it also has to do with Man City. It's kind of a boring, but I'm actually very, very intrigued. And it's the Man City trial. The actual hearing concluded a couple weeks ago. But now actually having like a punishment handed down or something is something that I'm really, really looking forward to. Not even like, oh, well, I can't wait to see them get relegated. It's just like, it's been such a saga for so long that I can't. Damn, Savinho just scored. The hell's frozen over.
Signing of the season.
But like just kind of seeing, because I hate to like get super hyperbolic, but it kind of will say a lot about like the state of current football if it's just like, oh, we looked over all this stuff and it was 5 point deduction. Yeah, because it's like with all the stuff that's happened with Forest and Everton. Again, I'm all for the innocent until proven guilty. I get that, but 115 charges is more than just a bookkeeping error.
Right.
And
Exactly.
Yeah, and like when you see that Everton or Forest have been deducted that many points for
Like one or two
charges, I just think it's an impossibility that no matter what lawyers are present, no matter what legal precedent there is, no matter what, corruption there is, I just can't imagine a scenario where they get less than what either Everton or Forest have gotten. And so I don't know. I'm just kind of intrigued to see how that's all going to play out. Obviously, people have made the jokes for years now about them getting relegated and they're going to be in League Two and all this other stuff.
It's funny because it's honestly been years since this has been going on.
Yeah, I mean, shit, they were getting kicked out of the Champions League like 3 years ago. So
yeah, exactly.
Just finally getting the conclusion of it, and then honestly, even as a fan myself and as a professional City hater, I'm just kind of tired of having to talk about it or think about it. I just want to see an actual result because it's just something hanging over the head of the club, and people say it all the time. And even for City fans, it's like I kind of feel this bad for them, where it's like literally this dude, Phil Foden can score from the halfway line with his dick, and people are just gonna be like 115 FC, and it's like damn. Like, facts, but like, damn. I mean, they won the treble, and this is what everyone did.
Good job.
Cool. Nice. Yeah. Are they the greatest team of all time? No, not close. Are they the best Premier League team of all time? No. Okay. See you guys next year. That's what happened when they won the frickin' treble, and nobody cared.
No, it's true.
And it's I have to think it's a majority because of the 115 and obviously them your least favorite thing being a traditional big club and stuff like that. Yeah, that's why Phil Foden's allowed to have 1-1 in the new season and nobody bats an eyelid. But kind of just seeing the conclusion of that trial. What's the storyline from Real Madrid that you're most looking forward to? Is it the Vinny revenge tour? I saw a stat today that said there were 2 players in La Liga that had over 30 goal involvements in 2024. And do you know who they are?
Well, Vinny, definitely. I would say Lamine Yamal, maybe the other one.
It was Robert Lewandowski.
Lewandowski. Yeah.
It was Robert Lewandowski and Alexander Sorloth.
Shit. Damn. That's actually very weird because I feel like Vinny picked up pace. First off, I feel like he's had an insane first half of this season. I felt like he had a really good second half of last season. So that's really funny.
So it was funny just because people were saying, he needs to win the Ballon d'Or. He didn't even get 30 goal involvements in the league, which is kind of facts, but whatever. So what's the storyline that you're looking forward to?
What hairstyle Vinny Jr. has? I don't know if you saw, but he's rocking some type of braided combination now, which for him just doesn't make any sense. Can you explain something to me, by the way? I don't know what made me think about this, but I just did, and I need your opinion. Danny Olmo being courtside for a Bucks game a couple days ago. What are your thoughts? Like, what conversation goes on where he ends up with, hey, you know what I'm going to do on this kind of mini vacation that we have right now? I'm going to go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin and sit courtside for a Bucks game.
I don't understand any of it because I see those all the time on all these winter breaks. You'll just like pick your head up and it's like, who was at the Nuggets game today? Jude Bellingham. It's like, why the hell did this dude go to fucking Denver? Like, but I don't know. I can't explain it. I mean, after I saw Griezmann having a legitimate NFL podcast, I don't really know what to think anymore, to be honest. So
that one was crazy.
I'm just throwing my hands up and saying, I don't know anything about how European footballers think or what they value.
Because I saw it was Elise and Musiala at a Knicks game on Christmas. I was like, okay, that makes sense. They're in New York, probably the biggest city in the U.S., seeing one of the most iconic sports franchises, even if they're not that good, in the United States. Like, that makes sense. I saw Vinny was at I think he was at a Lakers game or maybe a Spurs game. I think it was just, or no, it was the same Knicks Spurs game on Christmas, but he was like hanging out with Wemby or whatever the hell. I think they were playing chess or some stupid shit. But and then you go like Danny Olmo, like because it was like soccer players in the U.S. checking out basketball, whatever. And then it showed him courtside at a Bucks game. I was like, what the? So then I tried to peruse the Bucks roster to be like,
is there a Spanish guy that's the 15th man?
Even not even just a Spanish guy, but like someone who maybe played in the Euro League at some point. Because
he was the one that was watching Giannis in that YMCA gym. It was just Danny Olmo and Giannis's mom in there.
Yeah, so I mean, there's literally no guy. I mean, unless it's just like, hey, me and Giannis are boys. Like that's literally the only possibility, which honestly has a 0% possibility. But that one was weird to me. So I'm glad we were able to talk about that one for a second. But I will give you my top storyline for Real Madrid for 2025. How do they recreate their defense or remake their back line in the next 12 to 24 months? A couple of things. One, Trent coming on a free from Liverpool this summer, I think has been hugely talked about. I've seen, we always make the joke where, like, until you see the dude, depending on how high profile the guy is, it's like until you see him at the press conference holding up the jersey, or until you see him on the field in a game, like, I'm just not going to believe he's on the team.
Right.
That's how I feel with Trent, because I've seen already 3 confirmations saying the signing's complete. Which is always a bad sign, but I've just been thinking about, like, what he would bring to the team. I got a hot take for you. If Trent does join Real Madrid, is he more of a Kroos replacement than a Carvajal replacement?
As far as what he does, or like physically playing that position?
I would say more what he does. I think positionally he would still play right back more than center mid, just because we have a decent amount of center mids.
I guess, yeah. The only thing is, like, I would love it way more if he was a left back and it would turn into like a Vinny Trent thing to where, but like, I just don't see them focusing play down the right-hand side to progress it to a guy like Rodrigo or Brahim or something like that. I just don't really see that. Unless he's just going to hit a 70-yard big switch every single time he gets it, I don't really see Trent kind of replacing that ball progression. Unless he can find a way to really string it, like, with those center mids, like with Camavinga and Tchouaméni.
Yeah.
That's the way I could see it, is if they created really good patterns of play through the middle of the pitch, and it kind of creates like a diagonal of multiple passes, I guess, where it's like from Trent plays an incisive pass to a center mid who then plays that to Vinny and get it into his feet.
Yeah, or I was even thinking maybe Trent maybe occupying more of a...
that half space.
Yeah, well, you just kind of inverting a bit more, because when Kroos was at his, was in his, when we were in possession, and Kroos was in the side, he liked to play on that inside left, kind of right next to the left-sided center back. Trent obviously wouldn't be doing that, but can he maybe invert to where, Camavinga can drop off into that space or something like that, or... maybe can he provide, like you said, kind of that same progression, but from the right hand, from that inside right pocket instead of the inside left pocket. So just something that I was thinking about actually earlier this week. And then the center back position, there has to be some addressing there, because right now we only have 3 in the whole squad. I mean, really, I guess 4 if you count Raul Asensio. I'm not counting Vallejo. Vallejo just doesn't count anymore. Like
he's just a training player.
Yeah, no, honestly. When you bring someone up from the academy instead of play Vallejo, like, that's when you know you're cooked. And of those 3, they all have long-term problems. Militao, torn ACL 2 years in a row. Just, even if he is able to come back and play, a good amount, what level is he going to be at, especially movement-wise, because athleticism was such a huge part of his game. And then the other 2, Alaba, who's coming off a huge ACL injury, who I have major concerns about. 32 years old already, going to be 33 in June. I don't trust it. Now, I think I made the joke last podcast or a couple episodes ago where I was like, they just keep pushing the timetable back more and more. First it was December, then early January, now mid-January. I saw some shit the other day where it was like, yeah, by March they will be considering him like a key starter. It's like, well, shit, that's the end of the fucking season. Damn near. And then Rudiger is 31. He's going to be 32 in March, so... relies a bit more on athleticism than maybe your average center back. So I'm not saying, obviously, plenty of center backs play at 32 or near their mid to late 30s, but how's his game going to age at the top level?
Especially being such an aggressive defender.
Exactly, and that's
aggression and athleticism typically don't age well.
Yeah. To be fair, we've seen it with Pepe. He's like 40. He was like 40, and he was able to do it. But I think he changed his game, and I think Rudiger's smart enough to be able to change his game. But I think it's just going to take some time more than anything. And I don't know if Real Madrid are going to have that time per se. So they have to get at least one, maybe even two center backs. We spoke earlier about Silva, how he's probably locked to Juve. I'm so mad we haven't gotten in on that, but that's another day. But
so are you guys out of the Linearo sweepstakes, or?
Yeah, that one. I mean, look, it sucks because kind of how you were describing Bayern. The previous era of Bayern is kind of how I think Madrid have wanted to become, where it's like, hey, we're going to pay this fee, and if you take it, great. If you don't, we're just going to find someone else that we would want to get on a free or on a lower transfer. But at the same time, part of it is like, damn, I'd feel really great if we had Lenny Euro right now. But it's that balancing of those two things where I think it kind of makes it frustrating, to see the long-term project. But we'll get someone. Someone. It's just a matter of who. What about Arsenal? Let's turn to you. What are you looking at for Arsenal? It could go a lot of ways here.
I want to see what's the next phase for this team. Whatever happens at the end of the season, finish second, finish third, even win it. I just think that this current team has an expiration date on it. Does it include guys like Partey, Jorginho, Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Jesus? Probably not. If we're going to move into that final tier of like not title contenders, I think we're there, but like title favorite, I guess, status.
Yeah.
Or like Champions League.
Prime City work, kind of.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to reach that level within the next year. But just like as far as kind of what you say, kind of that Liverpool tier, what they were, where it's like everyone knows going into the year it's going to be City or Liverpool because they're just so here. That's kind of what I want for Arsenal, but but it can't happen. I think with this current team. Does it include guys like Ethan Nwaneri, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Max Dowman, Tommy Setford, our younger guys? Max Dowman, I think, is turning 15 here in about 2 days, but has already been training with the first team.
I like Setford, by the way.
Tommy Setford, the goalkeeper, and is it built by bigger transfers? I mean, I know somehow, some way we get shit for buying Kai Havertz for $65 million. But Højlund we still need to see. I don't know. I don't get it. But
well, Mateus Nunes is a great signing for 55, and Phillips as well.
Well, like you said, there's no one to talk about it. So, and so we haven't really. Even the Nicola Pepe signing, like if you really look back at it, not like a ginormous fee and not awful. Like the fee, like what would you guess that the fee was?
70, 75 maybe.
Yeah, it was 72.
But I was gonna say that's because I know it, because I'm in agreement with you where it's like it wasn't like an insane. I just talked about earlier where I'm like, all right, 50 is like the minimum that it has to be considered horrible. Like he's not barely over that, but he's just over that. So
yeah, and he scored 10 in a campaign before, and he won a FA Cup with us. I know that doesn't count unless it's a team that you like.
City.
Yeah,
City or Klopp winning it, then it counts.
I say Liverpool and United, if they win any cup, then it counts. Yep. Any other club, it's just it's a cupcake trophy. So, I don't really think we've dipped into like the big signing market. Rice obviously was a huge fee, but everyone kind of knew since he had played in the league, and there was kind of a sweepstakes going for him. It's kind of agreed upon, like that fee's just what it is. You're just going to have to pay it, and he's going to be a good player, which I think he has been. But I don't think we've dipped into like that Gyökeres, Isak, Kolo Muani, that kind of a class. Yeah, I mean, I don't like Kolo Muani, but apparently somehow, some way, he's going to cost nine figures. Like Osimhen, like people like that. We haven't really dipped into that. So I guess Arsenal has to, even though there's been no track record of it ever working. Like, I don't know. I just have to see and read all these stories and all these tweets about stuff about, oh, well, if Arsenal wants to take the next step, they're going to have to, sign one of these people for 9 figures. And it's like, tell me the time when City did that.
Yeah, 10% success rate at most.
Yeah, Mo Salah is probably the best Premier League player of the decade so far, and he did not cost that much. Like, I don't really know where this figure came from, where it's like we need to sign a player that's already the best player in the world, or else it's a shit signing. But I just don't know what this next phase is. I think we've maybe reached the peak of what this squad can be, because even when I look at best 11s or combined 11s, I want to put more Arsenal players in it, but it's just not. At right back can be improved. Our left back spot, I mean, it's okay, but fullback doesn't really matter either way. But
I think Timber, you're underrating him a bit.
A bit, but it's just, I don't know. Our left wing spot definitely needs to upgrade. Our center forward spot can upgrade, but I don't think it's as big a problem as other people's. It's just, and also the depth. Obviously we're seeing it right now with Saka. City, they've been so good because, oh, damn. For so many years, it was, oh, damn, guess we got to play Phil Foden today. We got injuries.
Yeah,
damn, I guess we got to...
is out, shit.
Yeah, I guess we got to play Kovacic. Like, when Rodri went out, it was like, fuck, man, they're going to have to play Kovacic. It's like, shit, man, what a shit. What? I feel horrible. Things like that. Yeah. So, I think kind of seeing what that next phase of this team is, and hopefully, getting into that sort of Liverpool... for that 6-7 year period where everyone knew it was either going to be them or City. Obviously, they weren't City, but kind of moving into that phase where everyone knows that, Arsenal is going to be the title contender of the season, even if they don't win it. And then maybe even being, the Champions League contender. I think we're somewhat crafted for that kind of a role right now, like a Champions League-like side, where you're not really that great, but you can do a lot of things because you have weird... things about your team that can be successful in the Champions League. But,
I think you guys have a strong enough defense that it can keep you in any matchup.
Correct. And that's what I think people underrate in the Champions League. That's why Atleti have been so successful. Blueprint. Chelsea, that's why Inter have been, or Atleti have been successful in the past. Teams like that. So that's kind of what I want to see of Arsenal in 2025. Will it happen? Who knows? But that's kind of what I'm hoping for. It would take a big window of sales, which Arsenal has not been very good at in the recent past.
Yeah. I got a curveball question for you, kind of playing off of this, because you mentioned the Carabao Cup. I think that you guys won under Arteta, or was it the FA Cup?
That was FA Cup.
I don't. What was the cup you guys won
under Arteta?
FA Cup, yeah. Okay. So you guys are in the Carabao Cup semifinal now, obviously. I want you to rank the 4 teams. I want you to rank the importance of winning the cup, how it is for them. So we got Arsenal, Newcastle, Tottenham, Liverpool, 1-4. Who is the trophy most important for?
Automatically, I'm putting Spurs at 4.
Shit.
Because they kind of already know that their shtick is not winning winning trophies, and so it's not like. But it's honest. Even their fans don't even get pissed off about it. They're just kind of like, hey, we had those seasons where we finished second and third, and it was fun, and we made it to a Champions League final, and that was fun. And they're in 11th now, so I don't think they're pressed. We need to win this Carabao Cup right now. They kind of seem to be, from the Spurs fans I've seen on social media, especially. It's like, look, we haven't won a trophy in 20 years. I can wait another year. Just above that, I would put. I mean, I think Arsenal's clear number 1 because of the trophies thing. We're still trying to win trophies, but we just aren't very good at it. And then Newcastle, I guess I'd put second because they've had their manager for quite a while now. They've injected money. Yep. They kind of, they've somehow, some way haven't entered a phase of expectation where no one really cares too much out from the outside if they do a lot, but it seems like internally they have pretty high expectations for themselves. So I had to put Liverpool third because it's new manager.
Yeah.
Somehow they have the best players, the best manager, but they don't have any expectations from anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
well, I told you why. It's because they spent 70 on transfers and not 100.
Yeah, and so it's like they're in a place that I'm very jealous of, where it's like if they win stuff, it's because they have the best infrastructure, best manager, and best players. If they don't win stuff, it's because they don't spend money, they have a new manager, and they play like a teenager or two, so their squad is young. Like Harvey Elliott's still 15, I think, in some people's minds. And Diogo Jota is not like 28. So I don't know. The Liverpool, I think Liverpool is kind of overtaken Chelsea for me as like the team that expectations are pissing me off the most, because let me ask you a question. How many times have you heard anyone talk about Liverpool bottling the league last year?
Oh, literally zero.
They were like 8 points clear in March.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not even debatable. It 100% happened.
Like, they were, like, legitimately 8 points clear in March. And they came nowhere close to winning the league. It wasn't even like they lost on the final day. They were nowhere close.
Finished third.
Yeah, they were nowhere close to winning the league. And everyone was just kind of like, oh, man, Klopp. Oh, man.
Because it was...
He tried so hard. Man, I love that Klopp. Well, he was so burnt out. Oh, man. And he had no one to work with. All he had was the best Premier League forward maybe of all time, and then like a completely rebuilt midfield for like a 200 million pound midfield. Man, he just had nothing to work out.
That's for damn.
He had nothing to work out. He had nothing to work with. And he has the best defender in the world apparently, and the best goalkeeper in the world, and the best right winger in the world. Oh, man, that Klopp, I feel so bad for him.
Yeah. And the best right back, according to some.
Yeah, so, but other than that, though, he had nothing really to work with. I don't understand how he could have won the league, especially when he was 8 points clear in February, March time. So long story short, Arsenal needs to win the Carabao Cup the most.
That was good, though. That was good. I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So we had a couple other topics that we kind of at least floated out. Was there one that you either wanted to give a quick thought on, or wanted to maybe ask my opinion on before we hopped off?
Yeah, I know you're the Grinch, so I think maybe the best one to tee you up on is what team had the worst 2024.
Perfect, because this curtails exactly with what I just said, what I was just talking about. And I first was thinking Roma, because they had four managers in 2024, which I didn't even know was possible. Two of them,
including one twice.
Yeah, including one twice, and Daniele De Rossi got sacked 3-4 matches into this season.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's just been a shit show over there. They're 10th right now. The only reason I didn't give it them was because
they spent money too. Like, they've spent money.
The only reason I didn't put them was because they actually made it to like a Europa League final. Or a Conference League final. What'd they make it to? What'd they do last? They did something. No, they got to the semifinal. They got to the semifinal. So they actually at least went far in a competition. And I think they finished 5th or 6th at the end of last year. So it's kind of like, well, I don't know.
It wasn't all bad. Yeah,
and no expectations, too. Like as much as they like to pretend that people think that they're going to be good, they never have been since I've been watching soccer. And they never will be, probably. Tulsi isn't playing for the club anymore, sorry. But I actually put Spurs. And this is why. They were top on November 6th.
Yeah.
And they finished 5th. And at no point, the only important thing they did last year was miss a one-on-one with Stefan Ortega. Okay, let me ask you a question. Who do you think picked up more points in 2024? Spurs or United? Because this one's actually a legitimate question, because it's like, who you would think that they've both been pretty shitty, but
wait, did either one of them get a point this year? The way people talk about United, I don't think they've won a point.
Fairs.
This is a tough question. I would have to say,
you would have to say, I have no clue.
I would have to go with United, actually. I would actually have to go with United.
United gained one more point
I bet Spurs had a way better goal differential, though.
Yeah, so Spurs had a plus 13 goal differential, picked up 50 points in 2024. Man United was 51 with a plus 1 goal differential. Fulham, Bournemouth, Villa, Newcastle have all picked up more points than, and United have all picked up more points than Spurs in 2024. And again, Ange is under no pressure somehow. I'm gonna push back on that. He's under some pressure, no doubt. No doubt under pressure. Okay. They picked up 4 more points than Forest, 5 more points than Palace, and it's just like that's brutal. Yeah, like some of the clubs that are in and around how many points they picked up is just kind of insanity.
Yeah. I mean, just that list that you just kind of named, 4 more than Forest is crazy.
Yeah, and they just haven't been good. It doesn't seem like they've built like a team. It's just like they have, and this is probably going to come across as me being an Arsenal fan being an asshole, but like I look at their team and I'm like, dude, this team is not bad. Like, again, I have to hear about how great Kulusevski's been centrally, and James Maddison is actually could play at a higher level, and Heung-min Son still has it, even though he's the most watched player maybe in the entire league. And Pop Sarr can do this and that, and Christian Romero is actually on the same level as Saliba, who I know he's been hurt recently, but now he hadn't been hurt the entire 2024. And actually, Vicario is better than this goalkeeper or that goalkeeper. And it's like, and Udogie is. I'm like, dude, somehow your whole squad, your whole starting 11 is so good, and you guys suck ass. So like, I don't understand what is going on. Yeah. But yeah, I think Spurs have, because this was supposed to be them taking the next step, and they've actually somehow, some way gotten worse. And I haven't mentioned Richarlison's name yet, but all you really have to say is his name to sort of make a statement.
This is all you have to say. This is all you have to say to understand where Richarlison is at. I saw some shit where, God, I can't remember if it was Fluminense or Botafogo, maybe one of those Brazilian clubs. Ryder, I'm sorry, I know you're going to kill me for just saying one of those Brazilian clubs. I do apologize, but one of them was like linked with a move for dude in a loan for him in January, and so it was Fluminense because that's who we played for before. They literally came out and were like, "Nah, like we're not gonna do that." And I'm like, "Dog,
this is a guy that moved for $60 million like 3 years ago."
Like, he was signed as and it was, I mean, obviously
the Kane replacement.
Like, yeah, he was signed as like the Kane replacement, and also to play in that front three for a year with him. But then it was just like, God.
Well, I knew people were giving him a pass when they were like, "Oh, he can be the next Kane, or he can play on the left if Son can't go anymore." It's like.
Yeah, the classic, if he has 2 positions, he really doesn't have any. And the funny thing is, he actually wasn't bad last year, but it was one of those where, like, you could just tell as soon as Ange could upgrade him, he was going to. Because, I mean, he had 11 league goals in 23-24, which is kind of insane. And then this year has played literally 90 minutes the entire season.
I've always had somewhat of a soft spot for Richarlison. I mean, I don't think he's bad, because we've seen it, especially in that Brazil shirt. Like, he's the only forward this century that's actually been better for Brazil than he is for his club. But he just, I don't know. Maybe he's one of those like basketball players that's like, if they're your 7th man, like Peyton Pritchard. It's like, if he's your 8th man, then he's the best player in the world. But if he's an actual starter for you, then it's like, what the hell are you even doing? Maybe he's one of those.
I think it's more Aaron Gordon theory, where when he's running the Orlando Magic's team, their clutch offense, you're going to lose every time. If he's a guy who's working off of other guys and kind of like what he did last year, literally just finishing stuff that everyone else creates, and missing half of them but still finishes half of them, then he's in an okay position right there. And he can just kind of be a shithouse who pisses people off.
Yeah, and I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the guy that I put down as my comeback bounce back player of the year, Chris Wood. Yep. Just scored against Everton, made it 1-0. So that was his 11th league goal. So big shout out to Chris Wood. That's a heck of a shout. Yeah, big shout out to Chris Wood. Big shout out to the year 2024. It was a lot more fun of a year. We didn't bring up any Euros stuff, which I'm Euros or Copa America stuff, which I'm a little bit disappointed in, but we like to focus a lot more on club football here on the Glue Guys podcast. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it today. Kind of a blowout episode, about 100 minutes for you guys. So really appreciate the listens, really appreciate the interactions on TikTok recently. Please let us know if there's anything specific you guys want us to talk about in the new year, and see you guys in 2025.